name's Wendy Katagi, and I am a project manager working at a consulting firm that's been doing a lot of work with the Arroyo Seco Foundation in Pasadena in particular. Basically, my area of expertise is managing watershed planning and ecosystem restoration projects from concept, getting funding, all the way through to construction and monitoring. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a project that we did in the Central Arroyo. I don't know if Tim already mentioned a little about the fish, but that's what I'll be focusing on.
About the what?
The fish.
Oh.
Okay. So I'll be telling you a little bit about this project that we completed a few years back. I got a dog in the stream. It's called the Central Arroyo Stream Restoration. And this project is basically right near the Rose Bowl. So across the street from the Rose Bowl parking lot I, if you're familiar, by the Aquatic Center and the Brookside Park. The stream is actually soft bottom. It's not concrete lined in certain locations, and at the 134 bridge and also the 210 bridge, it's soft bottom. And so as part of Pasadena's master planning effort for over a decade, the goals of bringing back native fish to the streams was one of the kind of the goals that we were focusing on to implement with the stream restoration, along with all kinds of water quality improvements, removing trash, and improving surfaces that are currently asphalt covered. So the parking lot we took some concrete out and put in porous pavement in certain strategic locations and things like that. So just to orient you, okay, we are here at the Hahamongna, and so just downstream of Devil's Gate Dam is the Central Arroyo Stream. So what we did was we did a lot of surveying first, and did all of the biological work to understand the stream and what's going on, where are the improvements needed. So what we found was the water quality wasn't so bad, but the habitat for spawning, for fish to actually reproduce, to forage, to have cover during high flow events was the problem. So what we did was we designed scour holes where they can hide out, resting areas and spawning areas off channel, so that they could have some places to go, to escape from the main current. So this was the north area, which is below the 210 bridge. Before construction, this is duckweed. It's nothing too bad. It's a green aquatic plant. And then we created these weirs using the natural arroyo stone that's in the stream or on the sides. And we created these resting pools and other things like using woody debris. You can create wing deflectors, they're called. And it just helps the current to do more of like a step pool morphology. There's areas to rest. It's not just a straight shot of current going down. And after we did that work, Fish and Game said, this is great, this looks really good for our native Arroyo Chub, which is this fish here. It's a really small minnow fish, and it hasn't existed in this stream for maybe 40, 50 years because of the channelization and other impacts. And they said, we're going to translocate, we're going to move some of the fish from the upstream area down into this new restored area, the Central Arroyo, because we think we can restore a population here. And if we can do it with the chub, we can introduce trout, because they normally exist together in the same ecosystem. And we can also bring in some other native fish, like stickleback. So that's what they did, and this is actually, moving the fish and then releasing it into the stream. And after that first season passed, during the spring they did reproduce. So that was a successful native fish restoration, and really the first of its kind in the Arroyo Seco. And many urban streams throughout Southern California do not have fish, as you probably can imagine. So this was really a landmark project, and the governor recognized it. This, Pasadena, many awards from the state. And what we hope to do is more of this type of work in the Arroyo, because there's lots of big efforts going on with the Army Corps to remove concrete from the channel where it's safe, and to, you know, basically create that stream corridor again where it used to exist. So I'll stop right there for a second. Does anyone have questions about?
Yeah, what does that mean where it's safe?
Okay, so the reason why it was channelized to start is that there were major flood events that occurred back in 30s, 40s, 50s that actually took some lives. And so because of that, the Army Corps came in and said, okay, we're going to construct flood control structures to get this water as quickly out of this area as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. And so they engineered concrete lined channels to move that water to the Pacific Ocean as fast as possible so that urban development could continue and they wouldn't have any more loss of life. So since that time, the Army Corps, state, others have recognized that that wasn't the best way to approach flood control, that there are ways to engineer floodwaters where you have some areas that are definitely within a control structure and others where you have the soft bottom, like in the 134 and up here. And if you engineer it correctly, you can actually still retain the floodwaters, have maybe a bypass channel that takes a lot of the high flow, and then the stream itself could be like more of the low flow channel, so you've got two different engineered concepts. And that's actually what's going on. There's designs going on where the stream itself could be restored and handle kind of the lower flow during a high storm event, and then there's a bypass, either pipe system or another channel that would take the high flow. So you wouldn't have people getting impacted as a result of a high flow event.
Was this funded by Public Works or was this funded by Pasadena?
Great question. So it was a partnership. It was the result of a grant combined with in-kind money from the city of Pasadena. So it was a $2.5 million project. About 1.8 of that came from the State Water Resources Control Board through a competitive grant process where we, Tim Brick and CDM, worked together to put a grant in for improving water quality and stream health and things like that. We won that. So it was that combined with the city of Pasadena, and what they did was they put in 500 full capture trash inserts throughout the city and the storm drains to get the trash out before it hits the stream. Yes?
Where's the next major project?
Good question. So I'm going to show you. This document is online. This is the watershed assessment that we worked on with all the stakeholders recently. Just got published in 2011 of May. And it has, what we did was we looked at the entire watershed and identified where the different wildlife and stream and fish restoration projects could occur throughout the entire watershed. And we clustered a lot of smaller projects into bigger integrated projects in the different geographies. So in the upstream end, the upper Arroyo Seco restoration, so even above where we are, there's a dam, Brown Mountain Dam. So one of the objectives that was identified was to remove this dam that is no longer providing that capacity to retain floods. It's filled in with sediment, and it's actually a hazard, and it's very old. Forest Service owns it. So there's one. Now, if we were to remove that, then the stream up there that already supports trout up above in the headwaters. Yeah. Then that would become, again, a functioning stream, and there would be more opportunity for rainbow trout to move down. Okay, so that's one. There's also, with the Hahamongna watershed that's very close to where we are, a project to create fish passage with, in conjunction with Pasadena Water and Power's diversion structures for water supply. So we're looking at removing invasives, creating fish passage, maybe pulling out the diversion where it is right now, moving it downstream to a place where it's easier to maintain. And then the fish could even get past that down to JPL Bridge. So that's a concept that's in process. The golf course, that's an area where Arroyo Seco used to braid through. There's concepts that have been proposed to actually create a stream channel through, a natural stream channel through the golf course at that location as well.
Remove the golf course,
What?
You can remove the golf course so that no one.
No, actually the golf course, so we submitted, we're out with them too. And so they want to, they want to create just this amazing golf course and have natural features and things like that. So
A natural non-habitat.
yeah, it is. It
Might
is.
as well be a shopping mall.
And it is right adjacent to the Arroyo Seco.
Yeah.
So the idea is if we can naturalize,
Grass is not native to
concrete.
anywhere within thousands of miles of here.
I know. So right now they have this concrete line channel that goes right through their golf course. So the idea would be to remove that and make it soft bottom, revegetate it, that kind of thing, create some pools and things that look a lot more like the Arroyo Seco than it does right now. And then downstream, there's the confluence. There's ideas to even naturalize there, to remove concrete, and just kind of open up that whole confluence with the LA River. Could go on and on. There's many projects, hundreds of projects. So, if you want a brochure,
You said there was a soft bottom right below the door.
yes.
Has that been restored and
Yes.
any fish in there?
Yes, that's where we did, we released about 100 in the north restoration area right below the dam. Yeah. And,
That water flows all year then, it never
oh yes, year-round flow. The water quality is actually very good. And so there's lots of opportunities to bring back the ecosystem. And this is a project site as well. They just received funding to restore this area, this Berkshire Creek.
Wendy, the water temperature needs for the chub and the trout, are they the same?
In this area, it's fine.
Okay.
Typically, you don't want to get above 71 degrees
Okay, that's what-
Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
You
because
might
Colorado
have
River,
heard
I know
that.
there's some
Right.
challenges.
It's fine here. The temperature's fine. And so, yeah, we'd really love to see trout
Okay.
back in the streams as well
So
as
what would the effect on the water temperature be if they did dredge all this stuff in a massive way? And things like that.
Yeah, well, I think that for one, because the water would be able to kind of take its natural course and be filtered naturally, I think that the water quality would be greatly improved. Sediment dropout areas would be taken care of more naturally as opposed to man having to go in and move it out. In terms of temperature, I think that there would be more areas where the cooling could occur. So, if you have a concrete line channel exposed to sun, no trees, it's warmer, algae, phosphorus nutrients go up. So when you remove the concrete, remove structures that basically are very unnatural, and you allow the canopy to come back, the tree canopy like downstream here, it's cooler. Yeah.
I guess I was thinking the opposite. If you move all these trees out here as a natural consequence of dredging and so forth.
Oh, dredging. You're concerned about the dredging?
Right, yeah, what's the effect on the water? Up and down, or downstream?
Yeah. Well, I would just say that, so you're concerned that if there's stream restoration occurring, there might need to be dredging? Is that
Well, no, this whole plan to dredge large amounts through here, which would probably result in some tearing out of vegetation and trees. I just don't know what would happen to the stream as it approaches the dam.
Okay, all right. So actually, with the stream restoration, we typically don't need to dredge.
Yeah. But they have the plan to dredge.
Down, you're talking about
Right here.
Hahamongna?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, okay. So there's, with flood control, you're talking about behind Devil's Gate Dam and
Yeah, behind
the
it.
station fire and all of the deluge of sediment. the flood control structure can no longer operate properly, so they need to remove sediment and figure out what to do with that. So yeah, it will be an impact. It will be an impact, and there's an environmental impact report going on right now. I don't want to hypothesize because it depends on
Yeah, if
where
you
they
don't know
move
the answer,
sediment, right? But yeah, it's really good to stay engaged, to be part of that process too. So, any other questions about fish?
So right now it's just chub that's been reintroduced. But
Yes.
maybe
And
later-
what was the name of the chub again?
Arroyo Chub.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful fish.
So where can we go to see the Arroyo Chub?
You can, okay, so in the Central Arroyo, there's the trail that goes down, okay, from the Rose Bowl across the street. You take that trail and you go down, there's a sign that says the Central Arroyo Stream Restoration Project. There's a picture of the chub. Okay, you go down that trail, and if you look off to the right, there's a backwater pool 1. There's this first backwater pool, and that's where the chub would hang out typically. And it's pretty shallow at that location as opposed to downstream. It's really deep, hard to find.
So is that south of the Rose Bowl or north of the Rose
Yeah,
Bowl?
south
It's
of
south
the
of
Rose Bowl. That's the best place because the north area isn't really accessible.
Okay.
It's a jungle.
It's where things narrow down.
But yeah, and then especially after spring, so getting into like the May time frame, they'll have had a chance to spawn and reproduce, and so you might see more fish at that point. But you know, it's an ongoing process to reintroduce the fish to a stream. So Fish and Game is doing a lot of monitoring, and you know, they're going to be stocking probably more fish in the stream. And the other thing I didn't mention is that this watershed is part of a trout recovery plan. So there's the steelhead trout, which is an ocean-going fish. And right now, because of the dam, it can't come all the way up to spawn and go back. So part of the objectives of steelhead recovery are the exact same objectives for native fish like the chub. So we're actually consistent with a national effort, National Marine Fisheries Service, to restore steelhead to the Southern California bite location. So it's from, you know, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, all the way down to the Mexican border. There's these types of efforts going on for steelhead trout. So it's really exciting, you know. I mean, it's probably our children's children that would see that type of a resurgence of the steelhead. But the fact is, there are native trout in the headwaters of this watershed. So the idea that they can even move, rainbow trout become steelhead. Sorry, I'm going really fast on this. When they go to the ocean and they come back. They transform. And unlike salmon, yeah, they can come back 2-3 times. The same watershed or a different watershed. They're not like salmon that die after they spawn. So they're very resilient, and that's why they've hung on for all these years in Southern California. They live in the ocean, and they come back up, and they can live within a watershed like Santa Ana watershed, Big Bear. They can live there for years. I mean, they don't necessarily have to go back, but they'd like to. So it's really an amazing thing that, you know, Southern California is so rich in history for fisheries.
You were saying that the water temperature shouldn't be above 71% for the 71 degrees for the trout.
Yeah,
That's kind of tricky, isn't it?
it is. And you know what's happened? I'm working on a project in the San Juan Capistrano area where they're getting 3-foot steelhead. They're coming up from the Dana Point area and into the estuary and then coming up. Anyway, the temperature there, 73, 74 degrees sometimes in the stream. The fish don't care. They've adapted.
Oh,
They're just like, they're okay. So, so we're creating stream restoration fish passage for them up there as well. So it's amazing how the Southern California steelhead is so much more resilient to temperature compared to our Northern California counterparts. We've got, you know,
Oh, so
coho
they're used to
and-
the sunshine too then. Huh?
yeah, they're happy with the sunshine, like us. All right, well, thank you. I know you
Thank you.
on.